Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious with Earthling Nicole Stott. Welcome. We have an audience here. She's been doing a book signing today. Nicole Stott, of course, an astronaut that spent 104 days in space. Stick around. We're going to find out what percentage of her NASA career that actually was. Okay. And we're going to talk about her book, Back to Earth. And it's what she learned about being in space, and it's a wonderful book. We sold out 60 copies today. Thank you, everybody. You met a lot of good friends today. Nicole, how are you?
Wonderful. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here. Good.
Yeah.
You met a lot of good friends today. Of course, she lives in St. Petersburg. Her husband is with her. Here, where's he at?
There he is.
There's your husband
There
over
he is.
there. Okay, and we're so glad that your son is going to school just up the road up here.
Yep.
Well, let's get started with this thing because first thing I wanted to talk about was that with this book and everything and what you've been doing. You just come back from Europe. You were at the Paris climate change thing, right? Going on. Is that correct?
In Scotland.
In
yeah,
Scotland?
Scotland this year. Yeah.
In Glasgow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we got a picture of that. Your book's coming out is really doing well, isn't it? Are you
I
happy
think
about
so.
it?
I'm happy. I mean, when people come out and want to buy it and
Mm-hmm.
get a little signature in it, I'm happy.
Well, it
And I
seems,
hope they read it.
yeah, well, that's the other thing, and not just
Please
keep
read
it.
it, too.
Everyone says I'm making room on my shelf for that book
Yeah.
that you're coming out
Yeah.
with. We're sure you read. Well, it seems to me like it's a good time to be Nicole Stott.
Oh, well, I think it's always been a good time.
Well,
One way or
particularly
another.
since yesterday was your birthday.
It was my
All
birthday.
right,
yesterday.
and we want to celebrate your birthday. All right. Sorry, Sai here. So
you guys are
everybody,
cracking
3, 2, 1. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, dear Dickie. Happy birthday to
me.
There you go.
We'll do this so that other people can.
All right. And this is a vegan, super
Look at
duper
that.
chocolate
Yummy.
vegan just for you, okay, on
Yummy.
there. So
Thank you.
thank you, everybody, for
Excellent.
having fun. And of course, you got to have
The new
astronaut ice
29.
cream, though
Yep.
that's not vegan. You can give that away.
We don't know what that is.
In
Yeah.
there. So, all right. Well, we love having fun. Let's stay curious. We've been doing this for a year and a half. Marty Winkle, my cameraman, co-producer,
Marty.
has been with me since the start. He is celebrating the 52nd anniversary of Lunar Module 6 lifting off the moon with Pete Conrad and Al Bean, your friend for
Yes.
sure. We'll talk about on the moon 52 years ago today. Isn't that something to
It
think
is
about?
crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
And he was an artist just like Al Bean was, just like Nicole on there. And we wanted to Jessica Galloway, shout out to her, our Trekkie techie, the pretend science engineer. This is the real
What?
science engineer here.
Okay.
So thank you for all that she does to make this possible. And we're going to have a good, concise show here for you. We got a lot going on. Bob Seek just came in the room here. Hey, Bob.
Waving at Bob.
Waving up. Oh, don't show his picture there.
Bob.
We got Triple T here. Travis Thompson, our director. Karen Conklin's
Woohoo!
passing out things for everybody. Hey, Bob.
I know, for the cupcake.
Put on the camera on there. Show that. Yeah. Flip it on there. There's Bob Seek. Launched a few shuttles in his day
Just a couple.
in there. And
We're decapitating you. There you go.
all right, your birthday was yesterday on a
Uh-huh.
total eclipse of the moon, well, almost total eclipse of the moon. And in 2 weeks, you're going to be witnessing a total eclipse of the sun. Where?
In Antarctica. I always said Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Yeah.
And tell us a little about that. And what's that all about? You going to be on a ship out at sea in Antarctica, or are you going to be on land?
We are. Well, we're going to be on a ship that fortunately we get to fly from Punta Arenas over to King George Island, I think. And then we get on I'm looking at Chris because just to make sure I got the details right. But then we get on the boat. I'm very happy because that means we're not having to navigate that whole Drake Passage thing, which is known to be
The Drake
rough
Passage.
seas and
Have you ever done this before?
potential
Been to Antarctica
rogue wave,
before?
my big fear. No, I haven't. So really, really excited
Yeah.
about it. And
It's a very short total eclipse, only about a minute and a half or something like that. I
yeah, but
think,
it's every 400 years or
Yeah,
something. So
it-
you know,
it
if you can
happens
get the
down
chance
there,
to
so-
see it, might as well, take it. Yeah,
Uh,
no, really unique opportunity. And
But we'd love
my
for you to take
husband's
the
come, I'm
American
very
Space
fortunate.
Museum and all of us with us down there
I
with you,
love it.
right, folks?
if you
Take
have,
us down
is there
there.
like a little banner or flag or something?
Oh, we
Something
can
or other.
make that
Yeah.
happen. Yeah,
We can
on
do
there.
that.
But we want to talk about that, and we're going to share a little bit about Nicole's life a little bit. Of course, she's a fabulous astronaut. She went up to space on Discovery 128, and then she was Ubered down on Atlantis 129, and then 133 Swan Song that we hear all the time in there because we have a loop of Discovery's final
know.
mission, and I always hear her coming into the space station going, "Hello, everybody, hello, I'm back up here. Where's my stuff?" Yeah, what do we need going here, guys?
Move the mic about 2-3 inches her way.
Okay,
am I not-
there
am
we
I-
go. You're good there.
Yeah,
If you, it's
you
better if I
tuck-
move it there.
Tuck in a little
All right.
Tuck in.
Well, we wanted to share a little bit about that. You are really
Take guidance.
Nicole Stott Pisano. Where's my thing there? There we go.
Oh, look at the chicks.
Whoop.
Yeah.
bit. Hold on.
Whoop.
Yeah, give me.
Let me hide this.
Let me go there. There we go.
There we are.
There's three of your favorite Earthlings there. I've been trolling your Facebook for
Yeah,
today's show a little bit.
stalker action going on. Yeah.
Tell us who's there with you, Nicole.
Well, my mommy is there in the back. And then from, I don't know if you're looking at the picture from left to right, that's my younger sister, Noelle, my sister, Shelly, and then me.
And she's the oldest. She makes the rules. Shelly in the middle does what?
She's the reason we had
Oh,
rules.
she's the reason we have rules.
And Noelle, the younger one, the rules don't apply to her.
There you
apparently.
go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the oldest of four, so I can relate to that a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Because I came back from college going, "You're letting my sister live out of the home in high school? What?" He wouldn't let me. Anyway, what we're going to talk a little bit about this book is
Aw.
fabulous, and let me set this up with her book here. I read it, and I grabbed a yellow legal pad because I wanted to make notes. This is a lesson plan in 7 chapters of solutions, not belly aching about global warming and the climate change, but true solutions that aren't your solutions. You interviewed about a dozen people for this book, and we're going to highlight a few of them here to weave our little story here with Nicole Stott. Glad that you all are visiting us on Stay Curious today. These are with Earthling Nicole Stott here. Oral histories like these at the American Space Museum are made possible by a grant from the Marie Louise G. West Endowment. We thank Charlotte West Petenpole and Laura West, the daughters, for granting us some money that helps us buy the equipment to do this today. And of course, we're your favorite nonprofit, and we always need bushel baskets full of $100 bills, and it's the time of giving, so we got the tax deductible form ready to send out to you. Just send us your little donation. But that was what impressed me, Nicole, was you went around and interviewed people for this book. This is not your typical "I was an astronaut and it was the greatest thing in my life" type of book. This was interviewing people, and this is one of the people of your life that we brought up there. Tell us about your aviation teacher in high school.
Yeah, that was, I mean, this was one of the things in high school that was really surprising to me. I guess I didn't realize that you could, in high school, have classes that are about the stuff that you already love.
Mm-hmm.
So when I discovered this, it was like Introduction to Aviation, I think was the name of the class. And this really wonderful woman,
Elizabeth Dusty Ransom, a World War II
Yep.
pilot.
Yeah, we knew her as Mrs. Ransom.
Uh-huh.
And she taught the class. And I mean, it was everything from basic navigation to some of the history of aviation and stuff. But, I was a kid that was growing up with a dad who loved to fly. And most of our time as a family was spent out at the local airport. And I had already, I think, really young, discovered that I wanted to know how things fly. And so when in high school, I could have a class with somebody like Mrs. Ransom who was teaching us already about that kind of thing. That was pretty impressive to me. And she was just so like she was just like Mrs. Ransom. You didn't know about a lot of these things that she'd done, like with the Wasps in the flying across country in the war, like basically ferrying airplanes, and she was like a champion swimmer, and she ended up in Clearwater teaching us about aviation.
And women in aviation are a very tight-knit group, not that the men aren't, but you got the 99s. I grew up in Ohio, and in Cleveland is the Women's Aviation Hall of Fame, Lake Erie, that's quite impressive. Am I right? There's all these little groups of aviation women that are you members of any of those?
I am, yes.
We wanted to
the
get
ones you
the
mentioned,
99s involved here one time or another. That was the group formed by Amelia Earhart.
And we can do that.
And they're good. We can do that. I also hung out at an airfield with my dad. And one thing that you mentioned in your book, and a gentleman in your book, damselflies. Tell us about damselflies and this gentleman, Dennis Paulson, and why he's in your book.
Well, Dennis is in my book because of damselflies, and he's a bug guy. And, I had been reading all about, there's a number of articles out recently, associated with like insect apocalypse and the insect Armageddon and these kinds of things, which really are associated with, extinction kind of stories. And as I was reviewing some of this and doing the research, it made me think about some of those times at the airport where, as little kids, when we were there, we weren't always flying. We weren't always in airplanes flying, and we were just hanging out at the airport like it was a park, really. And one of the things that we did a lot was chase the damselflies. It was like we were surrounded by them. And, you could interact with them. They were gentle. I mean, dragonflies will sometimes bite you, even though they're not poisonous and won't really hurt you. But these damselflies, which we didn't even know what they were called. We all called them dragonflies because we didn't know what damselflies were. But I realized as I was reading these articles and doing this research, I'm like, man, I cannot remember the last time that I saw a damselfly. And so I started doing some research on people that know about damselflies. And this wonderful gentleman, Dennis Paulson, came up. He's like one of the world's leading experts on dragonflies and damselflies. And he assured me that they still are out there, but that I might not see them in the numbers that I had as a kid. But very thankful for the interaction with him and the kind of the complimentary stories that he had about his experiences with water bugs in southern Florida and how he used to get attacked by them when he'd go to look for them, but that they're still there as well.
Well, you are a bug because she's the bug class of 2000, okay? And I forgot how many were in that class.
17 of us.
17 of you in there. And, I'm not even showing you the picture of that because we actually did an interview with you on Zoom. Marty and I did about a year ago, and we were glad that you did that. We were freaking out even how to do that. It was amazing.
It worked.
And now everybody a year later, it's almost second nature to do these hybrid meetings type of thing in there. So, but yeah, she was in the bug class of 2000. Their picture, they're all wearing little antenna bug things in there, and you've had a lot of fun with that. In fact, I enjoyed Karen Nyberg as the quilter that had the bug quilt in space.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful quilt. I was trying to find that too. But what we got next up here for you is another place close to your heart, okay? And we know that Robert Law is flipping out right now in Dundee, Scotland. Hi, Robert. He's enjoying his cocktail now up there, Dundee. And there is, tell us what we're looking at there, Nicole, from your astronaut buddy. Tim Peake took that picture.
Yep. Well, what we're seeing most of all is Scotland in the picture, all coming down the right side of the image. But I do have to point out a very special place that's kind of down. I don't know if I can.
Lower left-hand corner, right
Which
above
way?
Earthplane.
Which
right
way
above
am I
Earthplane.
going? Right? Yeah.
Right above,
down,
down there.
down. There you go. There's the Isle of Man.
Isle of Man. Okay. And guess what? I got a close-up of the Isle of Man.
There we go.
There.
Very nice. Yeah.
This is a very interesting part of your book, and your husband Chris is from there. And tell us a little bit about the Isle of Man.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know how many in this room had ever heard about the Isle of Man. Until I met Chris, had never. Jean's grandparents are from there. You might want to talk to Chris about that. It's a very shallow gene pool, I understand. So, anyway, but I had never heard of the Isle of Man until I met Chris, and now everywhere I go, I encounter someone who is either from there or knows about the TT motorcycle races, or something that's going on in this really beautiful place, smack dab in the middle of the Irish Sea. And I think the whole population could fit into one of our football stadiums. For the most part, I think there's about 80,000 people on the island,
it could
and
fit in Ohio State Stadium
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. Okay.
I think the Kennedy Space Center, the area of Kennedy Space Center, is actually bigger than the Isle of Man, but just a wonderful place.
But it's in your book because it's the blueprint for our planet, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I used the initial model for me with the story in the book is the International Space Station, and how we're living and working there as crew, how every day we're aware of the condition in our environment, the integrity of our thin metal hull, the health and well-being of our crewmates. And that same kind of thing, I look at it from the standpoint of an island. And the Isle of Man is another really wonderful example of that. And they have been designated the only country in the world that's designated as a UNESCO biosphere, which is a special place that the UN kind of designates as a place that's really purposefully caring for their their place as their life support system.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me mirrors wonderfully what is happening on the International Space Station. And it's another example for how, as a planetary spaceship, we should be living like crew.
In talking about her book, Nicole, tell us the 3 things that we all need to keep in mind as human beings on this earth.
Yeah, they're pretty simple. We learn them when we're in. I know Nicole knows them. There's a young lady here in the audience today, Nicole, who I'm sure has already learned this, and I hope is keeping aware of it. Is that we live on a planet.
1,
We're all Earthlings.
2.
And the only border that matters is that thin blue line of atmosphere that blankets and protects us all.
That's right. This thin blue line right behind us, Nicole. Whoop,
Yeah.
get
Fighting
that.
with me.
Oh, right there. That thin blue line
This
that
one.
is
Here, let me
incredibly thin.
Right
that,
here.
that you've gone through that. You can't really
So
breathe
how
on
the
Mount
weather
Everest.
people do it, right?
Yeah, that's right. The weather. We're learning. We're learning here. There. Nicole's book is filled with what I'm going to call stot-isms. And they're good stot-isms. Act like everything is local because it is. Respect the thin blue line. These are chapters where she interviews key people. Live like crew, not like a passenger. Never underestimate the importance of bugs. And this is one that I've been practicing putting this day together.
Yeah.
Go slow to go fast. Okay, that's a good one. Stay grounded. And I want to stay grounded. I love how you want to stay grounded. How should we stay grounded, Nicole?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways.
No, the best way.
The best way. I think the best way is really to acknowledge this role we have as crewmates. And I think that in doing that, it makes you really aware of just the awe and wonder that surrounds you and that connects us all. And
Well, I was thinking about take off your shoes and put them on the earth.
Oh,
the
you want that one? Yeah, that's an example.
That's
That's an
the
example.
groundedness there, which,
All
of course,
right.
here at the beach, we always love that.
yeah, and that's that's something called earthing.
That's the
that
earthing,
I
yes. That's part of
had-
your earthing, yes.
Yeah, I had
okay.
never heard of it. I think in the book I tell the story because I had started meditating, which is something I hadn't done before flying in space, but it's the closest thing to me that felt like what I recalled from just getting sucked into that view out the window, experiencing Earth from space. And, if I didn't set my alarm, 90 minutes would go by and we'd have already circled the planet, and I'd have mission control yelling at me to get back to work because that's what I was supposed to be there for.
Right.
But so meditation was kind of the closest thing I could come to down here on Earth. And then I discovered this thing called earthing, where we can do it every day. I mean, I find myself doing it multiple times, where you just walk outside barefoot, acknowledge the fact that your feet
Mhm.
are connected with a planet.
Right.
And consider your place there, and then really just look up and be in awe of the fact that we're in this place in space together. And I just consider what surrounds you that you don't necessarily acknowledge on a day-to-day basis.
And 250,000 miles away, the moon, 52 years ago, your friend Al Bean with Pete Conrad were standing on another alien world, but they didn't have anything blue line to help them there. They had to have their own environment, self-contained system with them. That's how tenuous, our existence is here on Earth. We're talking with Nicole Stott, and we're going to talk a little bit about her being an astronaut, but I want to talk one more thing about the Isle of Man. She has so many interesting people in this book. You're going to enjoy meeting. It's a vignette of some really world leaders in the climate change movement. And here's, had to brag about your son Chris or your husband Chris, your son Roman there. And tell us about Chris's career. In his own right, he's involved with the space business.
Look, and probably in pretty much in every area you can imagine in space. But Chris, one of his main things was a company called Mansat, and it's tied to the Isle of Man, that earlier picture you showed, where I joke that he's a realtor in space because from kind of the regulatory side of things, not to get, boring, but they acquire these slots in space where satellite companies can put their hardware.
Really?
And I never knew about any of that process before that you had to go through to have these particular places in space where satellites are and other hardware. And I'm going to try not to give away a secret, but I look forward to the time when the work that Chris is doing will get us to the moon.
Well, and we are going to have Chris Stott on our Stay Curious program here in the near future. And tell us what your son Roman's doing.
Roman is in his first semester of college, just up the road at Embry-Riddle. So carrying on the family tradition, we'll start it that way, and figuring out what he wants to do in life.
Okay.
Chris, you're back here. Let me get
Yeah.
Yeah.
The happy
There he
birthday's
is.
up there. The bee.
There he
you go.
is.
We're
Yeah.
fighting. Okay.
Stop pressing B.
Well,
Everybody wave.
everybody wait. Yay. We're here at the American Space Museum with Nicole Stott. And part of her book that impressed me was the preface. You read the preface to her book and you're like, wow. And you show me here again, off the crew there. I want to show these bulbs here that we embrace the idea here at the museum to greet you with these colored light bulbs.
Yes.
And tell us the story in your book that we were inspired to do this.
Yeah, and that's really special, and I encourage you to visit the museum so you can see these really wonderful decorations.
Marty, turn those on there if you would, please. There. Paraphrase what you said in that preface.
Well, that's when I got to
Switches it.
space and seeing Earth from space, and one of the first phone calls with my family and talking to my son who was 7 when I flew the first time, and just trying to describe to him what Earth looked like through the window of the space station. And the simplest way I could think of was to tell him to imagine like the brightest light bulb he'd ever seen, and that it's splattered with all the colors Earth to be, and it's set against the blackest, deepest crystal clear black you've ever seen, and then to turn it on, but to kind of wait a little bit as you look towards the light bulb to make sure that your eyes are adjusted, because it was just, that's what Earth was like. It was like this glowing, translucent, crystal clear, super bright, like light bulb. Then it always looked that way, night or day, just like it was glowing there.
Well, a light bulb went off with our team. This
Yeah.
is a good exercise for youth groups and so forth on there. So, great. Thank you about that. We want to share one other Isle of Man person. One of
Aw.
these people in your books here.
Yeah.
Okay. What's her name?
Rowan Henthorne.
Rowan Henthorne. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about her why she's in your book.
Well, Rowan is a young woman that I was introduced to actually through social media in some way. I follow a lot of the Isle of Man stuff going on. And she's a young woman who grew up on the Isle of Man. And then she went off on like a sailing expedition to the farthest reaches of the Pacific Ocean with a group called Expedition. And that's Expedition with 2 X's. And it's these all women expeditions that go off, and they're exploring for different reasons. And their mission was all about plastic in the ocean. And they went off to this area, the like North Pacific Gyre, to do research there. And I just was really, really inspired by her story and how she came back to the island in a very similar way that I'm thinking about in terms of back to earth. She wanted to bring that experience back to the Isle of Man that was meaningful for the people there, for them to recognize kind of their place on the planet and the kinds of things that they could be doing like crewmates on the Isle of Man to help really behave like crew here on Spaceship Earth.
Well, that's a special part of your book, I think, there. But we got to talk a little bit about being an astronaut, okay? And I mean that facetiously, but this lady has got such a wonderful career going on afterwards. And in the book, you're going to read that you made a very conscious decision to retire as an astronaut, because there's no doubt in my mind you could have easily done a 6-month expedition crew if you wanted to. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was in line to fly again. I think if I had stayed in the astronaut office, I probably would have flown again by now, just knowing what the manifest was and who we were flying. But I don't know, I really was just having these feelings about things I could do outside of the astronaut office, outside of NASA, with the really wonderful experience I'd had. I wanted people to know too about the work we've been doing in space for, and I look at it, just at this point, simply from the space station standpoint, how, for over 20 years, we've been working as this international partnership, and how everything about it is ultimately about improving life on Earth. And there were ways for me to do that as a NASA employee, as part of the program, but I felt there were probably some more compelling ways that I could do that outside of the office. And my son was about to start high school, and I think my husband and I wanted to be in a different place for that to all start.
You can't help but weigh that, the personal side of astronauts' lives, right? The factoring in whether you're going to do this or that or the other, I'm sure, correct?
Yeah,
Like you're just saying
absolutely.
there.
And I'll tell you, I am so thankful for, and this was from the time I started at Kennedy Space Center, the experience I had there through all of the work that in time when I was with NASA at the Johnson Space Center. NASA has always had, as far as I could tell, a really wonderful way for acknowledging that family aspect of things too. I mean, when I was training to go to the space station, we were able to bring our family with us several times to Star City, Russia, to other places, so that they could get a better sense of what we were doing and who we were working with and what it was all about. And I probably could have done some of these things that I'm doing now if I had stayed a NASA employee, but I don't regret the decision. I feel like I've discovered my next mission.
Well, Nicole Stott is one of 575 humans who have orbited the Earth. 75 of those are women, about 13%. And you spent 15 years as an astronaut, correct? And you spent 104 days in space.
Yeah.
And that is 1.8% of your time was in space as an astronaut. And you kind of alluded to that in your book, that there's so much more to it in there.
Yeah.
But over 5,000 days as a NASA astronaut, 104 of those in space. So tell us a little bit about what else you do.
As an astronaut?
Yeah.
Lots of things. I think that's one of the most wonderful things about being an astronaut right now is that when you're training and then when you get to space, you're kind of the jack of all trades. We do the science that's on the station. We get to be scientists in space. We do all the maintenance tasks that are on board. We do the exploration kinds of activities that are going on, spacewalks, flying the robotic arm, all of that kind of stuff. We do outreach activities from the station. But I think one of the bonuses at this point in time is that you get a little piece of all of what needs to go on up there. But I do look forward to the time when we can fly the plumber and we can fly the scientist and we can fly the pilots and all of the different people that are doing those different jobs.
Well, it's a little more astronaut stuff here that was in the book. Tell us about the wave across the ditch.
So yeah, I mean that's a traditional thing that had happened throughout the years with astronauts getting ready to go fly, and our wave across the ditch as shuttle cruises was really a wave across the road because I guess there used to be a ditch there, but now there's a road. It's kind of the perimeter that goes around the launch pad, and it's a really special time because I think it's the day before launch is when that happens, and your family and some of your friends can come out and stand on one side of the road, and you're on the other side of the road, and you're not supposed to touch them. You're in quarantine, but it gives an opportunity to have a conversation and, to be in this place where they can experience the spaceship that's on the pad getting ready to go and kind of be in that place with you. And my son, like I said, 7 on my first flight, 9 on the second flight. And I did go a little rogue and rebelled a little bit and ran across, grabbed his hand. We swapped seashells and yeah.
I was going to say
but
that.
nothing-
Buy the
nothing
book
happened
to
'cause of
read
that,
that. But
yeah.
yeah, you swapped this with your son's initials on it too. I
Yeah.
think you said.
Yeah.
How sweet's that? Well, STS-133 was an interesting mission because we've got the crew pictures over here, and one of those guys didn't fly. Tell us about that, STS-133, and what was that like for a crewmate to suddenly can't come?
Yeah, so we were supposed to launch in November, I think, of
yeah, you were.
and
September,
of
actually.
September that turned in November, like of 2010.
It turned into February
and
2011.
yeah, and then was it 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2011. Golly, I can't even believe that's all the time and how much has gone by. But anyway, yeah. So Tim Copra was one of our original crewmates, and the STS-133 crew. I just have to throw out a plug for the bugs because we had 5 of our 6 crew members bugs, so all in the same astronaut class, and then Steve Lindsay, who I think was an escargot, perhaps, but we made him an
believe he
honorary
was,
bug.
yes.
And so Tim Copra on our original crew, we went out, had a couple scrubs, November, and we got turned around for a hardware thing and weren't going to be coming back for a couple months. And Tim had a bicycle accident and broke his hip. And that was like a month before
Oh, he
flying.
broke his hip.
Broke
Ooh.
his hip on a
Wow.
bicycle accident. And so we had to replace him on the crew. Steve Bowen, another bug,
Yeah.
came on board. Steve, who had just flown like one of the last flights, got turned very quickly to
He's
fly.
the only astronaut to fly back to back.
Yep.
The other one was Doug Hurley, 135 to crew Dragon
Yep.
demo.
And so Steve came on, was awesome, but it was difficult. And I don't know if this had happened to somebody else. I don't know how they would have dealt with it, but holy moly, Copra was awesome in the way he just went with it. I'm sure he was upset, but he went with it. He got Steve up and running into the place where he needed to be to fly successfully. And we had a great flight, and Tim supported us all the way through in mission control throughout the entire flight. So we felt like
And
we
don't
had
feel
7
sorry
crew
for him
members, yeah.
because Tim Copra spent 200 some days in space eventually on other expeditions up to space. Didn't
Yeah,
he?
he flew another
he flew
flight
quite
afterwards. Yeah.
Well, we want to, as regard to 133, in the book you said that when you got in the cabin, we got Triple T over here,
Yes,
Travis
thank
Thompson.
you.
He strapped you in there. And what Triple T, what do you tell him in the...
Sit down, strap in, and shut up.
In the nicest possible
you-
way.
but
in the
you-
nicest possible way. Yeah.
But Nicole, you took a nap, you said.
I think a lot of people do. You get in and you get comfy and you're there for a while, and you're laying on your back, and it's really and the crew, the crew doesn't, and Bob, you can remind me, doesn't really get actively involved in the countdown probably until about 20 minutes before or so. I mean, you're not really active, but ahead of that, you're wanting to, of course, know what's going on and everything. But there's a little time, especially while the rest of your crewmates are getting strapped in. You can kind of chill a little bit there.
One other note I have is in your book, you trained in Star City during the coldest Moscow winter in 100 years. That's pretty cool for a Clearwater girl, Florida
Yeah,
girl.
well, we got to do cold weather survival during
yeah,
the coldest
man.
winter in 100 years. But I'll tell you, I'd take that with the right equipment and dry, like minus 45. I'd take that over, just above freezing wet and Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we want to talk about a few more people in your wonderful book here. Back to Earth, What Life in Space Taught Me About Our Home Planet and Our Mission to Protect It, filled with what we call STOT-isms, go slow to go fast. Let me bring up here, though, somebody that I was very interested in your book there. I'm glad you're enjoying the people I chose. This is Warclaw Mucha. And I've probably killed his name right. Tell us
I'm gonna
about this
correct you.
gentleman.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, please.
So, Václav Mucha. So,
But it's spelled Warclaw Mucha, right? Am I right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but
well,
we all had to get over that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Václav Mucha, and he is an incredible guy. Was my Russian language instructor, and Václav is a Polish American who was our Russian language instructor, and he was really and I loved it because I could get Václav to speak English with me in my Russian language class, so it probably took me longer to learn Russian if I couldn't have convinced him to do that. But yeah, just a really great guy and very patient with my lack of language skills. I blame my mom for never somehow I got all the way through university without ever taking a Spanish class, anything. So I honestly believe learning to speak Russian was the most difficult part of astronaut training for me.
I had it in college, hard language. It seemed like you better with vodka in it or something to learn how to do it. Let's see what else we have up. Oh, yes, we've got to talk
yeah.
about fashion model Nikki here, okay? We can't get by without that. Tell us about your Super Bowl commercial. I think it's 3 years ago.
That's like one of those what the heck moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd
I'll
I
tell
get into
ya,
that? Is that what you're
if we
saying?
Could, if we could get the people that do Super Bowl commercials to fund the space program, we would be set. The amount of money that was spent on that kind of thing. But I mean, the only reason I agreed to do this was that Olay had a campaign where it was all like a STEAM education kind of thing, where they were raising money for an organization called Girls Who Code. And so they were going to raise, at a minimum, they were looking to raise $1 million for Girls Who Code. And so it worked out really nice that they had the space theme. I remember doing an interview with Robert Perlman with Collect Space, and
Former board member here. At the
yeah,
American Space
great
Museum.
guy. And at the end of the interview, he's like, "So Nicole, how do you feel about the fact that more people are likely to see you pretending to go to space in an Olay Super Bowl commercial than might have watched you do that for real?" And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I could go down the path of, yeah, I know more people are going to see me, but instead I thought about it, like, you know what? They chose space as the theme for this commercial. And I've had, kids that were affected by, positively through the Girls Who Code program because of this come up to me and talk to me about it. And people that I know who probably wouldn't have thought about space otherwise started to because of, a commercial like this. So that's how I tried to look at it,
And
too.
these are a couple famous TV actresses. I'm not even sure who they are
Yeah.
here with you. I knew who you were, and that's all that matters.
Lily Singh and Busy Phillips. And
Okay.
and they're both doing cool stuff, too.
Talk about this gentleman, Guy Lalibert.
So, Guy La
Guy
Liberté. Yes.
Lalibert. No, I'm not. I am horrible. Hey,
If I didn't know, I'd be right there with you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Circus du Soleil guy here. 11 days in space. You call him a humanitarian space explorer.
Yeah, really interesting man, really interesting guy. Guy was and is. And, I think about it like, here's a person who, very obviously had the desire to go to space at some point, but also created his own mission around it. He, in addition to being one of the founders of Cirque du Soleil, he has an organization called One Drop, which is all about educating people about places where, access to clean water does not exist, and then working to provide clean drinking water to places that normally wouldn't have it. And he built his whole 10, 11 days on the space station with us around that mission. And it was great to have him there. I have a picture from our time in space with him. One of our cruise shots that we did, we're all floating in different directions. We have our blue flight suits on that have the our flags on to show where we're all from.
That's the next picture. The one she's talking about.
Is it the next picture? Let's see.
No,
I don't know.
no,
I don't
no.
know. But anyway, I show it because first of all, I love the picture because I think it shows the best kind of people to work with. And I'm looking at some of the people in this group, and I would include them in this crew picture. Is that people where you know you're going to have a good time, right? You're gonna there's personality in the group that you're with, but then when
Stay
things
curious.
hit the fan, when stuff does not go as planned, you know that they will have your back.
Yeah.
Right? They're professionals. They're going to have your back. I felt that way with every single one of those people, including Guy when he was on board with us, and that they knew I would have theirs as well.
Crewmate,
And,
not a
yeah.
passenger.
And he brought up the picture I'm referring to. He brought up clown noses,
Yeah.
and so we're all wearing these red clown noses, and because he's considered himself a clown, but
And Nicole Stott has got her own website. We've not talked about her art foundation yet, but we will here in a minute. We're enjoying a nice conversation with her. I picked out a few people in her book that she features, and there's so many. Mark Tursek, I don't have him on here. I think I got I want to talk about these buddies, these Earthling friends of yours. And I'm very fascinated by this lady's Nemo excursion, 18 days underwater off Key Largo. Tell us about that. And
Yeah.
who's in the picture here with you?
okay. Well, you had one of these people here recently, Ronnie Guerin,
Sure did.
that's me front left. Look exactly the same, don't I? Look exactly the same.
There's you.
And then that's Tim Broderick, who is a medical doctor from Cincinnati, works with DARPA and helped connect us to a number of wonderful medical related experiments through some Canadian organizations as well as DARPA as part of our NEMO mission. That's Dave Williams, Canadian astronaut, and Ronnie Guerin, who was here a little while ago. And yeah, he's got a couple books that I know you guys promoted. And
Yes, we did. He's here a couple of weeks ago.
Gonna get some pictures out front with it.
This is no walk in the park, folks. This is a very serious mission. To go underwater and commit yourself is committing yourself to outer space. That's why you do it, correct?
Yeah, there's what we call a habitat of undersea laboratory about the size of a school bus off the coast of Key Largo called Aquarius. It sits about 60 feet underwater and absolutely the best analog to what it was like to live and work in space. And, you know, as astronauts, we joke that we got to go live and work in inner space to get to live and work in outer space. And there's, you know, folks that run this mission, you know, Bob, I know, you know, Bill Todd and the team that does that. And everything about it parallels what it will be like in space, from the science that we're doing there to the way we have to live and be very deliberate about the actions we take while we're there. And the fact that you have to know that if something goes wrong, doesn't go as planned at 60 feet underwater, you have to deal with it at 60 feet underwater.
You just can't pop up.
Your body's so saturated with nitrogen, you can't just swim to the surface without likely killing yourself or your crew. So, and just like space, we can't just hop in our spaceship and come home anytime we want.
Yeah, Darren, what?
What was the decompression time on the way up?
We have a question. What was the decompression time on the way up?
Well, what's really cool about the Aquarius habitat is we can turn it into a chamber. So we spend one night where we've been breathing oxygen for, I don't know, I think we do that for at least 8 or 10 hours, and then we have depressurized an overnight period. We depressurized the habitat up to sea level pressure, or down to sea level pressure, I guess. And so once we determine the time we're going to come out in the morning, we repress pretty quickly, and then we just swim on a little pony bottle up to the surface. There's no delay at that point because you don't want to like resaturate yourself. So it's kind of an interesting turnaround because you're in the habitat for an extended period of time, where most of the mission you're out, you know, scuba diving on these big rigs, or you got the helmet on, and you're with your umbilical back to the Aquarius and doing surface exploration stuff. But
Aquanaut
incredible.
Nicole Stott, and I respect that. She's an artist, author with her book, and let's talk about a couple other things. I want to talk about him briefly there. That is
Scott Harrison.
Yeah, Scott Harrison,
Yeah.
Charity Water.
Yeah. And that was in the same chapter with Guy La
Yes.
Liberté, and
Emphasizing the water on the planet. Yeah.
yeah,
You said in there that our planet has all the water we can ever make. Is that right?
all the water we can ever make. I don't,
It's
I don't
here
know about
already.
that. Well, all the water we have is here
Oh,
already.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Scott Harrison, I thought, was an interesting guy to interview. He is the founder of an organization called Charity Water, again, looking to provide access to clean drinking water to places that didn't have it. He's a guy who described himself as like, you know, like was living in like another world, like completely detached from what was happening to most of humanity on the planet, you know. And he has a line somewhere in his book too called Thirst, where he talks about how he had this wake up call of like, oh my gosh, I'm selling bottles of water to people for $10 at these events he was promoting, and living this kind of life of debauchery, really. And had a wake up call. I'd rather you read the book and
Right,
find out what
yes.
that is. But, you know, had committed his life. He's like, I need to know what the total opposite of my life would be like. And he
Yeah.
went off and volunteered on mercy ships and went off to places on the planet that, you know, most of us thankfully will never experience life like that, but was really awakened to this mass of humanity that just are suffering.
And
And
a good example of people, like you say, were off the rails, sort of went away, and then got
Yeah.
realized that they wanted to do something better in life here.
yeah.
Well, you rode your pumpkin suit up to space, and here is another pumpkin suit that we found you in the space station.
Yeah, so that's a thermal cover for the HTV, the Japanese cargo vehicle.
Oh, is it
and
really?
Yeah.
I wondered, how'd you pack that?
No. So that
But
was
that was Halloween on a
yeah,
space station.
That is
day.
Halloween on space station, and we all kind of scavenged stuff up to make costumes. And we had a costume contest
Did you
with
win?
the folks on the ground. I did not win, actually. I will tell you, Bob Thirsk won the. I don't know. Do we have the picture of the whole crew?
No,
in costume?
no.
We'll have to
Okay.
find it. We'll have to find
No.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because Bob Thirsk he wore this coat, this like blazer that was the blazer for when they hit the golf ball off the station at some point. The Russians did something and they had a golden golf club or something. And Bob found this jacket, and then he had these teeth that his wife had sent up for and they were, and I don't know, when you looked at Bob smiling with the teeth in the jacket, he looked very much like George Abbey in the
Okay.
picture. And it was like, oh my gosh, George is with us on station, which was so much fun to think about, first of all.
NASA's
But
spacecraft
Bob won.
manager.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah, George is awesome. And so he won. Yeah.
Why don't
Yeah.
you talk about this gentleman here?
Aw. One of my very favorite
And
people
there
on the
was an
planet. He
interview
was
with
here with
him
you.
on Stay Curious not too long ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Mr.
probably-
Jay Honeycutt.
Yeah, Jay, honestly, and I think I say it in the book, like a second dad, I think. It's the way I think about him. He might not think about me as another daughter or anything, but and I'm looking at people in this audience too, and Bob, you're one of them, where the approaches, a lot of the things that are in this book that you're calling Stodisms, that are the chapter
Uh-huh.
headers, or things that I brought out like through the story with Jay, are things I learned from the people I worked with at Kennedy Space Center, that were just kind of the ethos of how you do things, of believing that there's solutions to every challenging problem, of approaching things with the here's how we can, not why we can't way of doing things. And that, I on my desk everywhere since being a young engineer at KSC have this little astronaut with a little yellow sticky that says, here's how we can, not why we can't.
Very
And
good.
it's
That's what I like.
something that if you apply, it doesn't matter what problem you're dealing with, if you apply that to it, it turns out differently.
Well, your book's a lot like that, Nicole. Again, it's solutions to the problem from from experts in the field, some that unexpectedly she tells, like Harrison there, that came through helping in a different way there. I wanted to get, as we're running into an hour here, and I know we all have to go somewhere else, but let's look quickly at what you're really all about now. And there you are in Glasgow, okay, showing off your space art suits there that I'm going to quickly go to.
Yeah.
There's the Usiak brothers.
The Usiak brothers.
Happy birthday,
Yeah,
Tom Usiak. His
Usiak.
birthday's today.
It is today, yeah.
Tom's Usiak
Yeah.
today. And
Tom.
hello,
Happy
guys.
birthday, Tom.
Yep, out there. And tell us what they're with, Nicole, and how these have become part of your life.
Yeah, so this is the suit that you're seeing in this picture is called Exploration, and that's actually out at an event called Space Fest in Tucson. And that suit, all of these suits that we've built, just to start out, the company that builds our real spacesuit, ILC Dover, the one I did my spacewalk in, they have been volunteering with us since the very beginning. And what they've done is quilted together the artwork that we've collected from kids all over the world into these art spacesuits. We started out working with one hospital, a pediatric cancer center in Houston, and built 2 suits with them. And now the suit you first showed is called Beyond, and that was in Glasgow at the UN Climate Change Conference. That suit is called Beyond. There is at least one piece of art from at least one child in every country on the planet. And we built, even before we got invited to go to Glasgow, we intended that Beyond would be this ambassador for Spaceship Earth, and through the kids' artwork and the inspiration of space, we'd be sharing this message of the connection between personal health and planetary health. And so our mission at the Space for Art Foundation, which is the group we formed to continue to do these things, is that we are uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art.
And there is a healing power in art. You better believe it. This is a picture that like I said, I was trolling your Facebook. And I don't know if this is Andy Warhol or Dali. Okay, there's something about this that kind of struck me. There you see Nicole in one of these art, just in snow outside.
Yeah.
Is there an official Nicole Stott paper doll?
Paper
No,
doll.
there's
Yeah,
no official
right,
one. No.
Where's that?
Yeah,
Why am I
I was
intrigued by
actually
it?
like, man, that is in Moscow.
Oh, really? Okay.
And you can see a couple of the art little.
To me,
flat art
that looks like
spacesuits.
you in some way.
Well,
But-
that is me.
I know
in
that's
the
you
thing,
there,
Yeah,
but yeah.
but yeah, so we have some partners in Russia that work on suits with us too, and it's so cool because it started out, here, working with NASA and our crewmates there, and then we knew it was bigger than just one hospital in Houston. So we built a suit called Unity that was one where we traveled to all of the headquarters cities of the International Space Station program. And we met some really wonderful folks in Moscow that have partnered with us ever since. And there's actually an Orlan version of one of these suits on the space station right now called Dreamer that the folks in Russia that build their spacesuits, just like ILC Dover and in the US, have just jumped in and volunteered to put these suits together for us.
Well, it's a beautiful idea. Tell us the gentleman that works with you on that that had the idea.
So Ian Sion
Ian
was the
Sion.
artist that had founded the art and medicine program at MD Anderson in Houston, and I credit him with being the artistic genius behind the suits.
Well, you swizzled the drink there with your sizzle stick there. Just a few more things down your
Aw.
memory lane here. This was your Tucson Art IAAA, whatever. What's the acronym for this?
Well,
That,
most of the artists
and,
that are there in Tucson at Space Fest are part of a group called the IAAA, which is the International Association of Astronomical Artists.
Nicole's in the
Yeah.
first row left, kneeling down, and beside her is Michael Collins, who we lost
Aw,
last year. And
Yeah.
there you are. Tim Gagnon's in the back, right up above him
Yep.
up there.
Yeah,
To the right
good.
there
A
with
little
the beard.
more, a little more,
No,
other way,
no,
other
the
way,
other
other
way.
way.
There's
Right
Tim.
there, right
Hey, hey,
there.
Tim.
Yeah, Tim.
And,
And Ron Guerin's in here
yeah, Ron
too.
Guerin's
Ron's
over there,
here
up
on
to the right there.
all the way to the my right.
And we want
keep
to
going.
we want
There
to wind
he
down our Stay Curious by
Yeah.
talking about the art a little bit in there. How you were influenced by Al Bean and Michael Collins, both different types of
Yeah.
artists. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, really thankful. I mean, just throughout my entire time with NASA to discover that I think the most of the people in our space community, even though we tend to get thought of as just technically minded, that you're just using one side of your brain. I think there's really a nice blend in all of us, and have really enjoyed discovering that in a lot of my colleagues along the way. And Alan Bean was certainly like a highlight of that for me. And when I was getting ready to retire and thinking about, maybe I'll use art as this way to communicate the experience I had and stuff, was very fortunate to get to go spend time with him at his studio. And he shared about himself, like this transition from, astronaut, moonwalker person to really committing to art, to being the way that he shared the experience, and very fortunate to consider him a mentor and a friend, and and thankful for that. But I love looking at this picture because I'm guessing a lot of people wouldn't think about Mike Collins as an artist.
Correct.
They wouldn't think about Al Worden as a poet. They might not even know about Alan Bean being an artist. And then you mentioned Karen Nyberg earlier, one of the most incredible artists, from like playing the piano to quilting, that you can find. And I don't know, musicians, and I mean, Kjell Lindgren brought bagpipes to the space station.
Really?
And Ted and I'm thinking, man, you got to love your crewmates if you're gonna allow them to have a bagpipes on space station. They were like a military version, because the Scottish have to bring that out on their deployments, but they were like this really compact set that you could take. And so he brought it with him, and he was just gonna, play occasionally up there. But then one of his family friends passed away while he was in space, and I get goosebumps thinking about it. And he ended up from space station playing Amazing Grace from the space station for his friends on Earth. And I think
Imagine
you can
hearing that
actually see
resonating through those 6 compartments orbiting Earth.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But that was incredible. And I think there's just so much of that goes on where, and I look at, there's a young lady in the audience today, Nicole, who, is figuring out along the way, she's going to figure out what she wants to do. And I mean, I'm going to encourage her right now, use your whole brain, I mean, if you love
I like
the
that.
artsy stuff.
Your book,
if
you
like
don't
to
say there's
use it.
no left brain or right brain. You got to use your whole brain, is what you say in your book. Yeah. Well, here's as we're getting towards the end here. Here's the artwork of your missions, and I thought that'd be an appropriate thing to kind of look at and talk about art.
Yeah.
I consider you as part as 129 as any of those people, because you spent 2 days on it as your Uber ride down, correct?
I did.
almost 2
And they
days.
got to spend what?
Yeah.
How many, 10 days with us on the
on
space station.
your
so,
ISS on there. But Nicole, just quickly, and also 133, you're tied to a very famous artist. This is his last piece of work that Tim Gagnon helped finish. Tell us that little about and your expedition. Things there. Oh yeah, we've got everything here at the American Space Museum.
Yeah.
We save space history, folks.
No, I love it because I think it's one of the cool traditions in the astronaut office too, where as a crew you can be part of the creation of your mission patch, and you try to include something that is particular to that mission and that's special to you. But yeah, the STS-133 patch, when we were first assigned to STS-133, and that was, for me, that was cool. I got the call, what was it, like within the first week, I'm looking at my husband, the first week of being on the space station, I get a call from the ground, hey, we need to talk to you about something. And of course, when your boss calls you and says, hey, see me, talk to me, whatever, you're like, oh no, what did I do?
No
I've
matter
only
where
been
you're
here
at,
for
space
whatever it is,
station.
Yeah, I know, what did I do? I'm only,
Yeah.
And that was, they were letting us know about the assignment for STS-133, because at that time it was going to be the final flight of the space shuttle program. And so when we were looking at creating our patch, we're like, man, we need to do something special for 133 being the final flight of the program. We don't want it to be like the Alpha Omega thing. We want it to be just creative and interesting on its own. And so we reached out to Robert McCall, who, if you don't know who Robert McCall is, I encourage you to please check him out and his artwork. And he's done everything from, art for, really important space films to, he was involved with some of the early patches, like the STS-1 patch. I think he was even involved with creating. And so we wanted him to do the artwork for us. And if you look at our patch, you can see there's very typical Robert McCauley kinds of things in this art. And yeah, so he put the sketches for the patch in the mail to us. And I think the next day passed away. Really, really sad. But he was so excited about doing this for us. And so to bring it to life through the graphics so that you need to have to actually make the patch, Tim helped us do that.
Tim Gagnon,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you being an artist tied to that story, you know, it's pretty cool over there. Your 128 patch, I want to just notice, everything has meaning on there. You see the Earth, that is the astronaut pin that is apparent in both your 128 and 129. And kind of the vector of 133 hints to that. So there's some, I like the continuity of that in your artwork, your patches there. So very hard to find expedition patches or even decals. But all right. Well, we want to thank Nicole Stott for being here. Having a great here's your final goodbye up there. Not sure where that was located. Travis, were you guys
It was
remember?
up on the launch pad
Is
there.
that on the pad up
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, and that was actually Mike Parrish.
yeah,
Everybody
that's-
probably knows Mike
Down at
Parrish.
135-foot level.
Yeah, and Mike had given us
Do we know?
yeah, that was fun.
Parties involved?
Mike Barrett,
Alvin Drew,
Alvin Drew, Eric Bowe, Steve Lindsay,
Commander.
me looking exactly like I do today.
That's
yeah.
right.
And Tim
11
Copra.
years later,
Tim Copra. Yeah.
ready for the runway. Get you some
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Olay.
Yeah, that's it.
All that
Uh-huh.
boxes of,
I need
you
to
know.
go back to space.
yeah,
That's one of the greatest
yeah,
things about going to
right.
space. That where your fluid shift fills in all the lines.
Natural
It's
boat.
really-
So it's natural
really, yeah,
Botox,
gets
huh?
this great lift. It's really good.
In
And then you
there.
come back to Earth.
Anti-gravity. Highly recommend.
Well, Nicole, we have enjoyed this conversation with you, and the American Space Museum wants to know how much we've enjoyed your presence here at our humble museum. And as we say goodbye, let's hypnotize everybody to buy her book. And go out to
haven't
Books a
already.
Million.
Go to
Uh,
Amazon and use Amazon.
But
Prime.
Yeah,
Nicole,
go.
we didn't talk about what is your Earthrise moment, and I did
That's
a poor
okay.
job of covering that in your book. But
That's okay.
we've got all over here the Apollo 8 Earthrise moment. That is what inspired you a lot for this book. But tell us again, so we don't forget, the three things that we have to remember.
that we live on a planet. We are all Earthlings, and the only border that matters is the thin blue line of atmosphere.
And I'm not just a passenger, right?
Yep, and all of that is just really just.
I'm a
folds into-
crewmate.
You need
We
to
are
be a
crewmates.
crewmate,
We're all
not passenger.
crewmates together here.
Yep.
Well, God bless you and all you stand for, and your husband. I really mean that. We wish you a safe trip to Antarctica. Hopefully, we
you.
can find a way that we can
Take
take
you
our
with
Stay
you.
Curious with us there. And we know you'll stay curious. So, Andy, I want to thank Marty Winkle and Jessica Galloway and our director, Karen Conklin, and our whole staff here for putting on a wonderful event for this book signing. And we want to thank the Marie Louise G. West Endowment for making these oral histories, Mark Marquette style, possible. They're not exactly strict oral histories, but we love the conversation, and we love you all out there on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Please share, like, subscribe, whatever you got to do to get the word out, to enjoy this programming that the American Space Museum, your favorite nonprofit, is bringing you on a weekly basis. So again, Nicole, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I just want to say thank you, and I would like to encourage if the people that are listening or watching have not been here, they need to get here.
And we will happy to book you a tour here. Come Fridays or Saturdays, and Triple T will give you the tour.
Yay!
Until then, on behalf of our whole museum and Nicole Stott and our great audience here, I'm Mark Marquette, and we will see you again to bridge the space between us.